Hey, everybody, welcome to In the Huddle, where we try to come to you every week and bring you into the conversations where we are talking about the plays that we're running and the plays that some of our clients are running that are helping them get more profit, grow their business, and just have a better outcome for themselves. So, myself, I'm Jason Nunemacher. I've built and grown several tree companies over the last 20 plus years. We got Rob Kane here, who's been involved in the operations, optimization, and marketing of companies, and just getting all the systems to speak to each other, give you the data that you need, make it a lot more fluent and easy to run your business through automations and having the right data sets and what would you call that, the software stack in your business, and also helping you get in
Yeah.
qualified leads. So today we are talking about sales, and when we're talking about sales, it's definitely something that is not a one and done thing. You're never done learning sales. You're never done getting better at sales. In fact, it's said that you go 8 hours, you get rusty. Yeah, you go on vacation, come back, you're rusty. And so sales is something that constantly we're working at, trying to get better. It's really about communication. How do we have better conversations that lead to a mutual beneficial end? And so, kind of go over the topic of what we're going to talk about specifically, Rob, today, and then we'll jump in.
Yeah. So, to me, just thinking about sales, I think number one, as I've grown in my roles as a salesperson, every entrepreneur needs to sit in that seat. That's something that a lot of, when you're younger, you're thinking about starting a business. You don't think about how much sales is going to have an impact on that business growth and how much you need to be that authority for your business. So, myself having a background in sales, I think was really helpful as I walked into the service-based industry, and then, from there, just taking over my own marketing company. But I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is really, to keep it conversational. And as long as you are an authority within the subject matter that you're talking about, these sales conversations can you can get hung up really easily, especially because there's so many different sales formats that are out there that people are following or they want to follow. But at the end of the day, like keeping it conversational, being authority within your industry are two of the most powerful things that can help. But obviously we have our moments, right? Like there's days where like, you're on fire with sales. You can't miss. Everybody's saying yes to what you're offering. Your talk track's on point, and then maybe you wake up on the wrong side of the bed one day, and that day's sales calls just aren't, they're not aligning, right? Something's just not right. You're caught up in your own thought process, and it just can it's difficult to close. You can't close anything. So I think what we want to talk about today are like overcoming those hurdles. Like how do you keep it consistent? How do you have a good day on the course every single day when you're out there playing that sales game, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, to your point, like we get in our own way, and I think some of that's the biggest prohibitive is the things that we think we know or we believe that aren't so, and or even the things that we don't know about what's going on. And so there's a lot of sales training out there, and even there's a lot of good sales training out there, and even that good sales training can have a misapplication and not get you the result you want. And a lot of it's through what you think is going on or don't realize what's going on. And so we want to talk about some of those psychological things that are going on with customers, that maybe you haven't considered or forgot about, or um, something that would just help you think through that. And so one of the things is, I was talking to a client the other day about um, their customers and the price. The price objection comes up like every time, right? It's never going to not come up, right? But I truly believe that price is not ever the issue. Um, the issue is only ever going to be value. It's not going to be price. It's that they're not seeing the value of the price that you gave them. And of course that's not up to them to drive that value. It's up to you to drive that value. And so some of the first things as we think about a customer that's calling in, particularly in home services, like when they're calling you and they hit whatever lead source that you're using, they hit and they come in and they raise their hand and say, "Hey, I'm interested. I have this problem. I think you guys can solve." The first thing we have to realize is that person's coming from somewhere. This isn't the first time they've gotten that service done, right? If they're new to you. And so that being said, we got to understand they're running from something, trying to run to something. There's something they didn't like about that last service, that last service provider, and any previous ones, or they'd called them back, right? They're calling us brand new out of the gate. So that's the first thing we need to understand and realize. Because what's going to happen is they have a mindset of, hey, I was paying them good money, I was paying them a fair price, maybe even overpaying, and they just weren't doing their job. And that's what they have going on in their mind. And so they want a company, what they want is they want the price they were paying or even better, but they want your level of service that you know you're going to offer that you have a higher price point. And so that's what's going on. And so you have to find a way to re-educate them and show them that the reality was they were paying too little, right? And they're running from a company that wasn't charging them enough so that they could fully solve their problem. Meaning they're having to take shortcuts, they're having to buy and use inferior products. They are having to pay less wages and basically employ the bottom of the barrel. And so they're getting people that are constantly trainees because as soon as those people get skilled up enough for where they're worth something, they can no longer afford to pay them. So they go find a job somewhere else. So these people are on the job training at all these customers' jobs, and they're wondering why they're not getting the results they want from their service provider. So you have to know psychologically in your own mind that's what's going on. And so like price matching and dropping my price to meet or beat my competitor it's a losing game. And even if it's not losing, it's not rewarding. Like you didn't get into business to not make money, not take care of your people, not be able to provide a great service. Understand what we're talking about. If you're not charging enough money, you are not really giving your customer your best service. Because every time you see that phone number on your caller ID from them, right? Or they send in an email, like you are dreading having that conversation, of man, this customer is difficult, they don't like our work or what have you. And you cause that by the price that you given. And I'll show you in contrast what I'm saying is we all have those, you know, handful of customers that we know, man, we did a great job on pricing this. And whatever we do, take care of that customer. Like those people are starred, they're tagged with a certain tag right there. We know who those are. The car company knows who they are. We're going to bend over backwards for them because we charge the right price. Imagine if you built a whole database and portfolio of customers like that you'll bend over backwards, give them the high level of service that they deserve. And those customers love that service. They don't complain about the price anymore, right? They may initially said, man, that's high, but they took a chance on you. And then because of the way you service them, because you know how much you charged them, they're getting top-notch service. And when there is a problem, you're on it, Johnny on the spot. And that's where they really see your service. They don't expect perfection, but they see, man, they are on top of it. If something goes wrong, they're Johnny on the spot, taking care of me. I don't have to worry about it. They don't make excuses. And so I think if we're not thinking the right way, we're going to build a portfolio of customers that we're servicing that aren't like that and that we don't like showing up for and our people don't like showing up for and we end up with the wrong business that we didn't intend to build because we were chasing the complaint of price as opposed to saying, hey, we being able to share, hey, we provide a better value than what you're getting before.
Yeah, I think that's like a fast track to really hate what it is that you do, right? Like if you're building a business like that, or if you're not going back and even purging older clients, as you continue to grow, and or upscale them, right? And let them know, hey, these are the services that we're offering now. This is why we're offering it. I feel like if you're not taking your business along with you and your mindset shift, then you're going to burn out. And I think we all see that, right? And it doesn't matter like where you are, in starting your business or growing your business or having been experienced for a really long time. It's like you've got to continuously keep this mind shift, and I feel like that's a really great way to just ensure that you're creating that good reputation as well, right? Because you're going to get better feedback from those clients. They're going to be more willing to give you reviews, give you referrals, and that mind shift I just feel like is super critical if you really want to continue to enjoy what it is that you're doing and also provide the level of service that you set out to provide.
Yeah, and so you start talking about these things, and then people are like, "Well, man, how do you do that?" So those of you that are selling to customers and you're getting that price objection, and you're like, "Man, I don't know how to show them the value. I don't know how to position that in a way that they see it and they'll buy." And so I want to give you a few actionable things that you can do. The first thing, before we even talk about the sales process, is I would encourage you to go to a product or service audit. Go through your services and products that you offer, and just take a sheet out, get a spreadsheet, what have you, and write the list of all the products and services you offer, and start putting down the cost of those services. There's material, make a material column. If there's a labor, put a labor column. And any other, maybe other expenses that go along with it. Maybe if you're like a tree company, you're going to have dump fees, right? For the debris. Um, you're going to have some fuel, you're going to have some travel time, right? Whatever those costs are, if you want to bulk those costs, you want to create separate columns. But just look at that and look at what your pricing model is and look at the profit and find out, hey, am I satisfied with the amount of profit that I'm making out of that? And so the first thing is just do an audit. The second thing is when you make that, after you make that product list, have a couple more columns of, hey, for every service or product that we sell, what problem are we solving? Identify that so you and your team know and understand that, hey, these things are meant to solve a problem. And if you can go a little bit deeper than they want their tree trimmed or their lawn mowed or their windows washed, right? It's a deeper problem. Like, what does that thing do provide for them, right? Maybe for some people, it's, hey, I like to come home after a chaotic day and be able to relax and be able to create great memories in my yard with my family, my kids, and entertaining people, and with my yard looking the way it does, I'm embarrassed to do that, or I just don't enjoy it. I'd rather just sit inside, and ignore all that. So just identify, hey, what do these products or services, what problem do they solve? And then, um, from there is how are you going to message what the product does to solve that problem? So, hey, here's the problem we solve with this, and then what we do to solve that is this. The other thing I want to encourage you to do is a lot of times we ask for surveys, whether it's a net promoter score survey, we ask for reviews, right? We're always asking for customer feedback in some way, but let's do an honest assessment of our own services. Let's look and rate our own services. Let's do an audit for ourselves and pick somebody that is going to be candid and critical, not overcritical, but not undercritical, right? And just really rate and come up with a rating system, a 1 to 5, 1 to 10. Maybe put some, what does 1 mean? What does 5 mean? And then just start really rating your own service and start looking at, hey, how are we delivering? And start looking at what is a 5 or what is a 10. And then once you have those things done, and what happens is this allows you to know, hey, what's the level of service that we're providing? What's the problems that we solve? And so when you have a customer that comes in the door saying, hey, I think I want to start using you guys. I'd like to hear what you have to offer. And then what they're looking for is they're going to tell you they're looking for a price, right? because they don't want to overpay because they have the pain of paying and not getting what they wanted. What they're really looking for is can you finally be the one that solves my problem? And I don't have to worry about this anymore. And I don't have to pick somebody new. I'm tired of interviewing people. Tired of giving them a chance. And then 3, 6, 12, 18 months later, everything's just still the same. So when you have that, like understand what's going on and then start asking questions. A lot of people in their sales process go right into presentation, right? They start talking about all this jargon that customers don't understand. It's their jargon about their company, their services, their industry. Like I'm in the tree industry, and like I don't want to talk about words like arboriculture and even certified arborists. Like it has its place, but what I want to talk about is words they use to talk about the problems that they're experiencing, right? And um, so I want to start asking questions, not using presentation. Hey, appreciate you calling. What has you reaching out now? What has you interested in talking to us now? Right? Asking that question, letting them answer the question. Ask them, hey, what did you like about the last service that you had? Like, don't start negative. They don't want to disparage anybody, but they might if you ask it that way. I didn't like anything, right? I'm calling you because it was a disaster, and I'm tired of that. And then you've opened the door saying, hey, what is it that you don't want repeated? And you're now hearing the things, the problems that they want solved to make sure, one, that you aren't causing those same problems and you have a solution for it, but also you're able to build up all the bullet points for your presentation that when you create your offer and you show them, it's gonna magically solve the problem they were looking for. Like, man, these people get me. They have the thing I've been looking for wherever they've been all my life. But you did this through a series of questions. The other thing powerful about asking those questions is when they hear themselves, and I know I've talked about this before on other episodes, but when they hear themselves talk about the problem, tell you about the problem that they have, how big the problem is, and how urgent and bad they want to solve it, they're going to believe themselves when they won't believe you. And so if we start telling them as the expert, it's fine to be an expert, but really you should be a guide more than an expert. Expert has its place in the authority of the credibility that, hey, if you decide this is the thing you want, let me show you some credibility that we can actually do those things. It has its place there, but I think in the beginning, it's just asking those smart questions to get them to talk about the things that they expect, the things they don't want to repeat, the things that are non-negotiable. Hey, what things are non-negotiable? What things have to happen every time? What have you tried in the past? What were the results from trying that? Like these are all questions that give you data, get them talking, get them more in the pain of I don't want to repeat that. And they will then move in their mind at some point to say, okay, it sounds like you have the right solution. I will pay more for it. But if you never dig into that pain enough for them to say, you're going to have a hard time moving them on price because they haven't heard it yet. So now, once you've asked those questions, you've identified all those things, and now you move into, hey, um, one of the questions that you can ask, by the way, in the factory, and hey, are you prepared for the investment it's going to take to correct this and to solve this problem for you? That's a great question, right? Because it's now shifting their mind to, hey, you're going to have to, pay something for this. So then when we go in representation, and I'm like, hey, so here's the solve. We do this, this, and this. This is how we avoid these things. These are things we do to make sure this always happens. And I'm not necessarily talking about my services. I'm talking about the solutions, right? Because it's matching the problem that they told me, not I'm gonna mow your lawn, you know, however many cuts a year. Like that can be on the contract. Maybe that fits somewhere in the conversation, but it's really like, here's how we solve those things through our process, through how we work, how we operate, how we interact with you. That's really the things that they're looking for. Um, it's usually not the parts and pieces or the mechanics of what we do. It's how we service them and how we interact with them and so forth. So anything.
How do you when do you feel like and what indicators are you reading when you feel like you've gotten enough from them to be able to pivot to that offer, right? Like, what are you looking for in terms of pain or, key points that the prospect is pointing out to where you're like, okay, now we can move to the hook.
Yeah, so I'm looking for what's called the dominant buying motive. Like, what is the thing that I've heard enough that I've identified that they've had enough pain in the past that they don't want to repeat. They're looking for a breath of fresh air from somebody who gets them, knows what they want, and they don't have to think anymore, can just do it. When I figure that out, where hey, they are willing to make a move and they're actually willing to even pay more money if I can show them that. I do try to stay in fact finding as long as I can, like almost to where it's
Mhm.
uncomfortable. Not with just unrelated questions. Like they got to be relevant questions. If I run out of relevant questions, um, or they are or they start feeling like they're some of them are repetitive, then I'm going to move on. But I'm going to make sure I ask enough relevant questions that get me that dominant buy motive, right? And then that's where I'm going to transition, and I'm going to be when I can. I think one of the other things too. So it's dominant buy mode, but also have I created enough gap between what they want and what they've had or what they don't have, right? So I can create that
Mhm.
gap. That gap creates value that is worth more money.
Mhm.
And so if I can clearly have them say that to me, and then I show them back through different words of what they just said, and create that disparity. Now, when I ask for more money, it's not going to be hard for them. They're going to automatically say, "Hey, man, it's a lot more than I'm used to paying." Like I'm used to, hey, no, I totally get it. That's where you need to understand how to have agreement, right? Handle objections. I totally get it, and I expected that you were probably paying a little bit less based on what you said you were getting. And let me ask you, if I were to guess, you probably the gap between what you were paying before and getting the type of service you're getting, and what you're going to pay us to get the actual solution that you're looking for, we're probably talking about, and depending on the industry you're in, but if we're talking about a lawn care company, hey, we're probably talking about what, $7 to $12 a cut.
Mhm.
Let me tell you what you're going to get for $12 more a cut.
Right.
Not only you get the service itself, but, and I'm going to rattle off all the things that I know that they talked about that we've solved, right? That aren't going to be pain points for them, that are going to be the non-negotiables that they want to make sure happen every time, right? And then I'm also going to, that's where I'm going to give some of my credibility, where I'm going to talk about maybe some certifications or, um, you know, what customers say about bringing customer testimonials, um, and just become the authority now in their mind of, hey, I have the right solution. I also have the credibility and the experience and the background to perform it, so there's no question in your mind that there's legitimacy to what I'm saying. And then I just make my offer. And so,
Yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think that's something important to remember as well, is that like you want the customers that can afford you, right? And I think that's really a really important distinction
and I'll
when you're
make
speaking
another
with
point.
somebody that's reaching out.
Yeah, because I don't want to forget about. So I sorry to interrupt you, but I don't want to forget about this. But when we're talking about our limiting beliefs and what we think,
Yeah.
some of the things that get in the way of when you just said that about, we want the customers that'll pay us more money. And we start thinking, man, am I greedy? Am I asking for
Right.
too much money? No, you're
Yeah.
trying to give the right service, right?
Right.
And by the way, it's okay to make money. That's why you're in business. You're creating a lot of
Yeah.
opportunities for people to be employed. You're creating a service that people need and want, don't have the time or expertise to do. So you're solving a problem for many people, not just yourself and you. And the only way you're going to continue to do that is if you're not frustrated doing it, that you're happy doing it. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to provide that in the community anymore. So, but the other thing is you're doing it for the customer's benefit. Ultimately, when you charge the right price, where you're making enough money, where
Yeah.
your employees can be happy, you have great equipment, newer, good working equipment, a good facility, money for research and development on certain products or new service offerings, stuff like that. All those things that go into it, and then being able to have work-life balance, right? Of being able to spend time with your family and your kids. You didn't do this to ruin your life outside of your business, right? And so that's going to be important. All those things are going to be important in servicing customers at a high level. And we live in an economic society. We live in an economic world. And so for us to do our best work, it takes money. And so, and nobody's disappointed at the end of the day when you do a great service and they trade their money. The problem is when you trade at a lower value, they're trading back at a lower value.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, that's a death cycle right there. And I've been working with a lot of clients on pricing, right? And just ensuring that they're considering, you know, their unbillable monthly, unbillable weekly time into what that billable rate should be for their guys, right? Because things always happen, like whether, you know, you missed an edge or missed a cut or just something doesn't look quite right. And we all make mistakes. You got to go back out to the property, you know, like that should be included into your pricing so that you're going to provide that customer a better experience and not feel like it's such a hang up, right? Because it's just like you're providing this whole customer service package, and it's important to just kind of think that way when you talk about your pricing and not price yourself to the point to where if anything happens on one of these jobs, like you're going to take a hit because inevitably that's going to happen at some point in time. So yeah, again, just that mindset and what you were talking about, like we want to provide the best equipment, we want to provide the best level of service, and this is the distinction between going with us and another company.
yeah, and I believe and I've seen where even the opposite happens of where we're like um we start our pricing by saying, hey, we have these go backs that cost us money somewhere that's got to be paid for. We start increasing our prices. But the reality was the premise of what I started talking about. The reality was we didn't charge enough in the first place so that they
Hmm.
had more time. We could pay people at a higher level and they had more time to do the great job the first time. And I think if you think about it, I talked about those, those top maybe 5 or 10% clients that you have that you priced really good. Your people already do a great job for them because you've like pounded into them, hey, do not mess it up, take your time, these people are paying a lot of money. And so imagine if you had that message with every customer, like
Hmm. Yep.
you'd be reducing those go backs, and I don't think you'd be perfect, but I think you'd reduce a lot of that because your message would be different, right? You would be talking more and more about, hey, these customers are paying us a lot of money to get it right the first time. Like these are not, you go to another company, they're not paying the same as they're paying down the street as far
Yeah.
as for the level of service they're getting. And you can't make the money that you make here over somewhere else because this customer is paying us to pay you to get that high level of service. And that's how that
Yeah.
works.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. I mean, that's like how that's how you build your reputation, right? And again, I think whether you're starting out or just making shifts within your business, like such an important shift in your mind that needs to take place in order to really enjoy what it is that you're doing and enjoy growing your business. Like you don't want to dread business growth. Like that's the scariest thing. It's like, okay, I'm ready to grow, but I don't know if I want to right now because is this
It's
really what I
really
want to own?
it's really interesting. We were talking to companies in different formats about, getting help with their businesses. And some of the things that we were hearing were that is like, no, I'm not looking to grow my business, right? But when you dug in a little bit deeper, the reason why is because they're frustrated with the current state of it. And so they don't want to
Yeah.
right? Like I
Yeah.
can't even, and it's this what I have. I couldn't imagine growing it and having a bigger problem. When the reality is, man, you could put some simple things in place in your business to help it run a lot more smooth. And you're not going to be afraid of growth because you're putting everything into a system as opposed to just reacting to everything and having things all over the place. And that's but yeah, it's interesting that we heard that a lot of people like, no, yeah, I don't want to grow. And I don't believe it wasn't they want to grow. I believe it was that I don't want a bigger mess than I already have.
Yeah. And I think taking that time, right? Like if you like if you've identified that, like this is the reason why I don't want to grow. Okay, now you need to step back and say what do I need to change in order to get myself into a position to where I want to grow? And sometimes that takes an investment. Sometimes that takes a time investment to where you've got to elevate out of your role for a day or a week outside of the business so that you can get that figured out, or have somebody from the outside come in and help you take a look at your business from a different lens so that you can make that transition. And a lot of businesses are doing this during the off season. We're getting to a point to where, like we're coming into the fall, things are going to start slowing down. And I feel like that's the best time to really zoom out, take a look at what growth is going to look like in 2025 and make those adjustments and shifts and stick to a plan that's going to help you to get to the objectives that you're looking to reach.
Yeah, and I think to your point, like there's a principle that I learned called be do have, and so the thing that we focus on is we want to have, right? Whatever that is, we want to have more money, we want to have a nice house, a bigger house, better car. We want to have a good business, well running business, whatever those haves are that we want to have, right? Well, to have, we have to do, right? And so there's things that you have to do to have the outcome of what you're looking for. The problem is everything that we're doing is because of who we are right now. And so there's a B portion that you're either unwilling or you're unlearned to know how to be different so that you can do different so you can have different. And so a lot of people they have the have and they have work ethic and so they're doing a bunch of things, but the problem is they haven't become a different person so they
Mm-hmm.
can something different. So we have a saying with employees that says, "Hey, when we need something different done, we need someone different to do it. Will you be different or should we look for someone else?"
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this concept of, hey, you have to become a better version of yourself, whether that's in sales, you have to master your craft, whatever that is, sales, marketing, operations, leadership, management, accounting, running the finances. Like, so to your point, like you have to make an investment in yourself and become someone different so that different things can be done so that you have different outcomes.
Yeah, awesome. I think we could probably talk for another
I know.
hour and 30 minutes and touch on all those bullet points, and maybe even segue into like the rest of this conversation next week, because I feel like there's still a lot of helpful nuggets that we can continue to talk about with sales that people will be able to get some value from.
Yeah, for sure. We'll go ahead and wrap us up.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate it. We're looking forward to seeing you next week on another episode of In the Huddle, and I think we'll probably just finish this conversation. So August 22nd, we'll see you at 3:30 Central Time.
Yeah, and if you guys need any help with marketing, your systems, operations, running your business, getting more structure and professionalizing your business, feel free to reach out. We'll jump on a call and just talk about where you're at, where you're trying to go, and see if we can be of value. And the way to reach us, you can reach us at info@disruptorgroup.com.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jason.